Here is a question nobody saw coming. What if Blake Lively's biggest legal problem is not Justin Baldoni? What if the people who actually destroyed her case, the ones who built the strategy, filed the claims, chose the jurisdiction, selected the legal theories, are the people sitting on her own side of the table? Because a theory is circulating right now across legal commentary circles and entertainment media that stops you completely when you hear it. The argument is not that Blake Lively lied. The argument is not that her experience was fake. The argument is that her lawyers, the expensive, elite, Hollywood-connected legal team she trusted with her career and her reputation, may have handed Justin Baldoni one of the most significant legal victories of this entire saga without him having to do very much at all. Blake and Ryan may have spent millions thinking they were building some unstoppable legal attack only to suddenly realize the foundation underneath it was shaky from the beginning. And now, with the trial approaching and 10 of 13 claims already gone, the Whisper Network inside Hollywood is asking a very uncomfortable question. Are Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds angry enough to sue their own lawyers for malpractice? Welcome to the Marquee Report. This is the story that changes how you understand everything that happened in this case. Let's get into every detail. Let's start with the specific legal errors that triggered this conversation, because the theory only makes sense once you understand what actually went wrong in the courtroom. When Judge Louis Lyman issued his April 2 ruling dismissing 10 of Blake Lively's 13 claims, including the sexual harassment allegation that started everything, the language he used was not sympathetic to her legal team's approach. According to commentary from legal analyst Mark Garagos on Megyn Kelly's show, the judge's criticism of Blake's legal team was brutal. And apparently some of the legal strategies they used made absolutely no sense. Let's look at the two biggest ones. Blake's team allegedly filed under California law even though the case connections pointed more toward New Jersey. Then they reportedly tried using federal protections designed for employees even though Blake wasn't technically an employee in the way the law required. Think about what those two mistakes actually mean. The jurisdiction error, filing under California law for conduct that primarily occurred in New Jersey, is the kind of mistake that gets cases dismissed before they ever reach a jury. It is not a subtle technical nuance that only emerges under cross-examination. It is a fundamental structural question that should have been answered before the first filing was submitted. The employee versus independent contractor classification error is equally significant. The protections Blake's team tried to invoke under California workplace harassment law require the plaintiff to be classified as an employee. Blake Lively was a producer and star operating under a specific contractual arrangement. The question of whether that arrangement classified her as an employee or an independent contractor was always going to be central to whether those protections applied. People online started asking, how does a high-powered, expensive legal team make mistakes like that? These aren't random rookie attorneys working out of somebody's garage office. These are elite Hollywood lawyers charging massive amounts of money. That question has not been answered. And the silence around it is getting louder. Now let's get to the theory that set the internet on fire, because it is more sophisticated than it sounds and it deserves serious examination. Legal analyst Mark Garagos dropped what he called a key detail. He claimed the sudden push for private mediation may not have just been about settling the case quietly. According to him, there is apparently a California legal precedent where once disputes get privately mediated, it becomes much harder for clients to later sue their attorneys for malpractice. Read that carefully. Because if that analysis is accurate, it changes the entire framing of the mediation push that has been running parallel to the trial preparation. The court ordered mediation. Both sides participated. No deal was reached. The trial is proceeding. That is the public narrative. But the legal commentary version of that story looks different. In that version, the attorneys pushing hardest for mediation may have had a secondary motivation beyond settling the case. Getting the dispute into a mediated process creates a legal buffer. A shield. A mechanism that, under certain California precedents, makes it significantly more difficult for a client to later argue that their lawyers gave negligent advice. Blake's case gets damaged publicly. The judge criticizes the legal handling. Then suddenly there is pressure to mediate privately and wrap things up before things spiral further. Is any of this confirmed? No. But the gossip world is eating it up because it sounds exactly like the kind of behind-the-scenes Hollywood legal chess game people imagine happens with celebrity lawsuits. Whether or not the malpractice theory is correct, whether the lawyers were protecting themselves or genuinely trying to resolve the dispute, the fact that it is being discussed openly in legal commentary circles tells you something about how the case has been perceived by people who understand the technical mechanics of it. And it tells you something about the position Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are now in. Because if they followed legal advice that turned out to be wrong, if the strategy they paid millions to develop collapsed under the first serious judicial scrutiny, the question of accountability does not go away just because the trial is still proceeding. Here is the thing about the legal strategy failure that compounds everything else. It did not happen in a quiet courtroom where only lawyers and judges were watching. It happened simultaneously with one of the most aggressive PR campaigns in recent Hollywood history. Blake's PR team spent months acting like they were completely in control. Every headline was supposed to make Justin Baldoni look cornered. Every media appearance felt carefully crafted. There was this constant energy of "we're winning. We're standing strong. Justice is coming." Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni mostly stayed quiet. That silence from Baldoni's side, which was interpreted in real time as evidence of guilt or defensiveness, is now being reinterpreted entirely. Because when the ruling came and 10 claims disappeared, the optics of that silence transformed overnight. The side that was loudest lost the most ground. The side that stayed quietest lost almost nothing. The louder Blake's side talked, the more people started expecting some massive victory. But then the actual court decision started rolling in and suddenly the energy shifted completely. People are now asking if Blake and Ryan were being sold confidence by their own attorneys while the reality behind closed doors looked much uglier. That is the combination that makes this story so damaging. It is not just the legal failure on its own. It is the legal failure happening inside a narrative architecture that promised victory, loudly, repeatedly, and publicly. The gap between what was promised and what was delivered is enormous. And Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are the ones left holding that gap while the lawyers send invoices. Let's spend real time on Ryan Reynolds, because his position in this story is genuinely complicated in ways that have not been fully examined. He was not a named party in the lawsuit. He did not file claims. He is not a defendant. He is on Blake's witness list and has been named as a potential trial witness, but legally he is adjacent to this story, not central to it. And yet the reputational damage is very real. Ryan Reynolds built an empire off being the sarcastic, funny guy everybody wanted to hang out with, but this scandal changed the energy around him completely. Now every joke feels forced, every interview feels calculated, and audiences begin questioning whether the nice guy image was ever real in the first place. One insider even claimed Apple hesitated on releasing one of his projects because of all the controversy surrounding him and Blake. Studios are nervous about him as well. Insiders say Ryan knows he cannot afford a Deadpool flop right now because that franchise is basically protecting his entire Hollywood position. That last detail is the most revealing. Deadpool, the one property that exists in its own cultural universe, that generates audience goodwill independent of whatever is happening in Ryan Reynolds' personal life, is now being described as a shield. Something he cannot afford to lose. Not because it is his best work, but because it is the thing keeping everything else standing. When a franchise becomes a survival mechanism rather than a creative achievement, something has shifted fundamentally in how an audience relates to a celebrity. And the shift that has happened around Ryan Reynolds over the last 18 months is not subtle. It is visible in every comment section, every interview clip, every post about his new projects that immediately fills with references to Blake and Baldoni. Once people start looking at celebrities differently, it is very hard to reverse that. Suddenly every joke feels forced, every interview feels calculated, and audiences begin questioning whether the nice guy image was ever real in the first place. He walked into this story as the untouchable funny husband. He is walking out of it as a liability. Now let's talk about the man who was supposed to be finished. Because Justin Baldoni's current position is the most surprising development in a story full of surprises. While Blake's side looks defensive and chaotic, Justin is starting to look like the calm survivor who stayed mostly quiet while everybody else fought in the media. Justin never really went out there personally attacking Blake publicly. Sure, his lawyer Brian Friedman spoke aggressively at times, but Justin himself stayed relatively low-key. So now if he finally speaks, people feel like they are hearing something exclusive. That is powerful in celebrity culture. The less someone talks during a scandal, the more valuable their first big interview becomes. And now insiders are starting to talk about what that first interview could be worth. There are whispers that Justin could pull in something around $10 million if he decides to write a book or do a full documentary series about everything that happened behind the scenes. $10 million. From the scandal. From the story that was supposed to destroy him. This lawsuit turned into celebrity internet warfare. Every filing became headline news. Every rumor exploded across TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and everywhere else. Everybody picked sides. It stopped being just a legal fight and became full-on entertainment culture. So if Justin suddenly sat down and finally told his version of events, people would absolutely watch. Podcasts would want him. Streamers would want exclusive rights. Everybody would fight for the first real sit-down. What really happened during filming? What were the arguments actually about? How bad did things get privately? Did Ryan Reynolds get involved more than people realize? Were there PR games happening behind the scenes? Did Hollywood insiders secretly pick sides? That is the interview. And everyone in Hollywood knows it is coming eventually. Andy Signore kept saying Justin probably feels a massive need to finally speak after staying quiet through all the accusations, headlines, and public attacks. Because imagine how frustrating that would be. Your name gets dragged across entertainment media nonstop. Millions of people debate your character online. And the entire time you are mostly staying silent while watching your reputation get picked apart daily. At some point the silence ends. And when it does, the value of that silence, accumulated over 18 months of restraint, gets converted into something. A book. A documentary. A sit-down interview. Whatever form it takes, it will be the most watched piece of content the scandal produces. And Blake Lively's team knows it. Here is the part of this story that goes beyond legal strategy and career damage and malpractice theories, because it gets at something more fundamental about what has happened here. Hollywood scandals are weird. Sometimes it's not even about what legally happened. It is about who the public thinks looked better during the chaos. And right now Justin's image seems to be recovering while Blake's reputation keeps taking hit after hit online. Blake Lively may have technically won certain parts of the legal battle on paper while still losing something much bigger publicly, her image. Before this scandal, Blake was mostly viewed as glamorous, witty, fashionable, and untouchable. Now there is controversy attached to her name permanently. Whenever people hear Blake Lively now, they do not immediately think Met Gala gowns or cute Ryan Reynolds interviews. They think lawsuits, PR wars, leaked messages, accusations, and Justin Baldoni. That association alone changes a celebrity career forever. And no amount of legal strategy, no matter how expensive, no matter how elite the attorneys, can fix a perception problem in a comment section. That is the territory where lawyers have no jurisdiction. Where billing rates mean nothing. Where the gap between what was promised and what was delivered is measured not in legal claims dismissed but in the way an audience feels when they hear your name. Blake Lively walked into this believing she could control the narrative. The narrative controlled her instead. Here is where everything stands right now. The May 18th trial is approaching. 3 claims are proceeding: retaliation, aiding and abetting retaliation, and breach of contract. 10 claims are gone, including the sexual harassment allegation that launched everything. The malpractice theory is circulating but unconfirmed. The mediation push happened and produced no settlement. Blake and Ryan will probably still be successful eventually because they are famous enough to survive controversy. Audiences have short memories if celebrities continue making profitable projects. Ryan Reynolds especially has built such a strong commercial brand that it would take something enormous to fully destroy his career. But the polished untouchable vibe is gone. The perfect Hollywood power couple image is gone. The sense that Blake Lively could do no wrong is gone. That polished untouchable vibe is gone now. Now people see controversy attached to them. They see lawsuits, PR battles, media manipulation accusations, aggressive legal strategies, reputation warfare. And once the public starts seeing celebrities through that lens, it is hard to fully erase it. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni, the man who was supposed to be finished, is fielding interest from streamers. His financial backer never walked away. His public image is recovering faster than anyone predicted. And his silence is worth more money every single day it continues. The trial starts May 18th. The testimony is coming. The verdict will come after that. And whatever happens inside that Manhattan courtroom, the reputational verdict has already been delivered in the only court that does not have a gavel. The court of public opinion. And right now that court is not ruling in Blake Lively's favor. This has been the Marquee Report. Subscribe and hit the bell. The trial starts in days and we will be here for every single moment of it. See you on the next one.